Okay, if you look at the histogram, we can't find specific numbers, but we know a definite range that each of these numbers are in. So remember we talked about histograms at the beginning of the year, and we have our numbers in bins. So I know that this first number here is between 30 and 40. So this doesn't really help us for finding our box plot, because when I try to put these numbers in order from least to greatest, I don't know what the numbers are. However, we do know that if we were to draw lines across each of these, we are able to see each piece of data. So if I were to cross off my lowest and my highest, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I were to continue to do that for 1, 2, 3, 4, lowest and highest, here is my middle number. So somewhere between 70 and 80 is my median number. I know my minimum is between 30 and 40. My maximum is between 110 and 120. So if I come down here, I see all my minimums are the same, all my maximums are the same. My median has to be somewhere between 70 and 80, but I know that all of these numbers are smaller than my median, and all of these numbers here are larger than my median. So chances are is that my median is closer to 80 than to 70, because all these numbers here are smaller than it. So then when I find the middle number, like I said, it's somewhere between 70 and 80. So if I look here between 70 and 80, my number has to be somewhere between 70 and 80 if I look at all of my medians. The only one that makes the most sense is A. So why do we choose that box plot? Because the minimum, the maximum, and the median all match. Plus I can also see that there's more of a cluster here. So we have my peak here in the middle, and then I have my cluster of data more on this side, and it's more stretched out on this side, which would make sense that it's a little bit more stretched out here. The second one is a little bit closer. On the second page, we're looking to see which of these titles match up with which of the tables. I know that Millionaires Pie states, well, there's 50 stars on the flag, which tells me there are 50 states. Daily high August temperatures in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is in a desert, so it's probably going to be warmer. I know there's 31 days in August. July, there's also 31 days, and it's the record high temperatures in Las Vegas. And then if I have a triangle, sum means to add up the measures of the three angles in my triangle. So that means that I have a triangle here, this angle, and this angle, and this angle all together add up to how many degrees? Well, that would actually be 180. So because I know that, I see that all of these numbers here are very close to 180. So therefore, table 3 has to match up here. I also realize that there are, when I add these up, there's 31 pieces of data here, there's 31 pieces of data here, and there's 50 pieces of data here. Because I know that table 4 has to go here with the millionaires. And then finally, I have to figure out the difference between August and July. Well, if I record the temperatures in the course of 1 month, they're probably going to be pretty high because it's in Las Vegas, but it's possible that there might be some days in there that are a little cooler. Meanwhile, the record high July temperatures are probably all going to be as hot as possible. So when I look at my data, I see that these numbers are all very high. These, while many of them are on the higher end, there are a couple days that are a little cooler. So therefore, I can conclude that this is the August temperatures, and that this table 1 is the record high temperatures. The next task we have to do is we have 4 box plots and 4 histograms. We need to figure out which box plot and which histogram matches up with each of the 4 tables. Pause the video, take a couple minutes, and see if you can look at each of those and look at the distribution and the spread of the data to figure out which histogram matches up with each of the tables and which box plot matches up with each of the tables. Now that you had a chance to look at some of these, let's match them up now. So table 1, which was our July temperatures, you're going to notice that the temperature starts, or the numbers start to increase till we get to a maximum of 9, and then it goes back down to 2. You will see on your histogram that the numbers continue to go up, and then it goes down to 2. So that's why histogram B goes with this one. Then you will see for the box plots, there's a total of 29 pieces of, 31 here. When I break that into roughly 4 quartiles, I get about 8. So that means that these first 4 and 4 more are going to make 1 quartile. And then 3 here and 5 here will make a second quartile. The 4 here and 4 here. And then the last one. So you can see, if you look at my 4 circles, that they are about the same size. And if you look at my box plot, you are going to see that each of my quartiles is actually the same size. So they're actually pretty evenly distributed, even though it goes up like this and it comes back down. These numbers, when you cut them in half and then you cut them in half again, they're very evenly distributed. So that's why box plot 4 goes with that one. If we move over and we look at table 2, you're going to notice that the numbers are very stretched out here. Then they start to get a little higher. Here is my peak, and then it drops off. So you don't see that drop off in histogram A, but that's because there's multiple bins here. Okay, there's like 7 or 8 of them. Here we only have 1, 2, 3, 4. So they had to actually be combined. So what they did was, it looks like, and again, this is kind of a little tricky, they combined here, and maybe some of these here, and some of these here, and put together. So they ended up making 4 groups, okay? And just so worked out that there was 1 here and 1 here, and then these other ones ended up being put together, okay? And actually, let's erase this. What happened was, I believe, is that they took and they did from, this probably was 70 to 80, so this would have been a 0 here. 80 to 90 was 1. They put 90 to 100 to make 13 in this column here. And then the last one was 100 to 110, and that would have been 15 in this column. So that's what that histogram looked like. Now, you're going to notice that it's heavier toward the right side here. So these numbers are going to be stretched on my left side, and then they're pretty consistent in quartiles here. So that's why box plot 2 matched up with table 2. If we keep looking, table 3 matches up with box plot 3 and histogram C. You're going to see that the majority of our numbers are right here in the middle, clustered together. Again, there's 29 pieces of data, so if I divide that by 4, there's about 7 pieces in each one. So that would mean 1, 2, 3, plus 4 more makes 7. I would take 3 and 4 more here. I would actually have a quartile right all by itself here, and then the last one is in here. So again, you're going to see that they're stretched on either end. The majority, or a cluster of numbers, are in the middle. So that's why my middle 2 quartiles are very close together, and we see this stretched on either end. Again, we're going to have my cluster in the middle. Here's my gap, which makes my gap right here. And finally, the last one, you're going to see all my data is clustered towards the beginning. Here's my cluster in histogram D. And again, if I take my 50 numbers and I divide them into 4 groups, each group has about 12 and a half. So when I take my first group, it's going to actually stay right in this bin. My second group is going to stretch here. My third group's going to be here. And then my last group's actually going to be really stretched out here. So you can see that and you also see that there's some gaps in here in my data. So this last quartile is really stretched out. All the rest of them are closer, okay? So if we filled in my table, and it's hard for me to see my papers because they're not here anymore, but table 1 and table B, or I'm sorry, Roman numeral 1 and B and box plot 4 go together, and that would be the July temperatures. for table 3, Roman numeral 3, we have histogram C and box plot 3, and that would be my triangles. So that would be the last one here, last one in the row right here. And then table 2 matches up with box plot 2 and histogram A, and that would be my August temperatures. And finally the last one is table 4, histogram D, and box plot 1 matches up here with my millionaires.